Yeah, I should win just because you had the Timberwolves in the 8th seed.
Vasilevsky's been playing really well, and the Lightning have a great offense.
Yeah, it was a tremendous shot, and I've come to expect it from LeBron. I would say I wish the best for the Red Sox, but as a Yankees fan, that's really hard for me to do.
The biggest addition to me is Jalen Brunson.
Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and that's all I have to say. He's still a top 5 quarterback in this league, and there's nothing really anyone can do about it.
Why'd you have to name him? Like, seriously. Like, thanks, man.
Who would have thought 5 years ago that the Clippers and Nets would be facing in the finals?
How is Joe Burrow going to get the ball to them if his butt is already on the ground?
Crazy. And for the fans at home,
Hello, I'm Cy Mendenhall, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA Opinions of the Week. It is the day after the trade deadline. I'm joined by the man that I've heard say the words Daniel Gafford multiple times, Austin.
Yeah, it's been weird. The weirdest thing, Kevin, to me, coming from someone who's obviously watched the Wizards for a while, is that when we traded KP, when we traded Bradley Beal, we did not get a single first-round pick. But we do get a first-round pick for Daniel Gafford. I'm happy that we finally have a pick to show for some of our good players. Gafford was easily our best defender. Great rim presence. One of my favorite players we've had in a while. So I'm sad to see him go, but at least we got a first-round pick for it, which I was shocked we never got for Beal or Kristaps, but I'm more happy that we traded Gafford, even though he's one of my favorite players that have played for us, because we got a first-round pick, and now we have something to show for someone we traded.
Yeah, and I'm glad I checked because I couldn't remember. I was like, I'm pretty sure Austin's a big Gafford fan. And I was worried when they said draft compensation. So I'm like, are we giving up our first? You did get a first, but it was just like a magical first that's from the Thunder.
It's your first, but I think you'd already made the trade before.
Well, so what the Mavs did apparently was they got a 2024 first by agreeing to do a pick swap with the Oklahoma City Thunder in 2028. And from that pick swap, the Thunder gave us, for a second, a 2024 first round pick that we then used to send to the Wizards. Does that make sense? Or no?
Not entirely. You're saying that they sent one to you to send to us? It's a 3-team trade, I thought.
Yeah, it is a 3-team trade. So
then why would they send it to you to send to us? Well, why wouldn't they just send it to us?
Yeah, they sent it straight to you. Yeah, I said for like a second. But yeah. So it's basically pick swap between the Mavs and Thunder to and the Thunder send the first round pick. This year's first round pick to the Wizards, and the Wizards send Daniel Gafford. And then in a separate trade, the Mavs traded the 2026 first round pick for PJ Washington.
Got it.
But so it wasn't our first. It's confusing, but I'm glad we got Gafford. Even though from what I've been reading, people are like, man, these are some high-risk moves. And I'm like, I think the Mavs are just in that situation, given...
I don't think Gafford's all that high risk. I think PJ Washington is.
Okay.
I think the PJ Washington trade is high risk because he is so inconsistent and has been his entire career that you could get poor games come playoff time. I could definitely see that being a reality. With Gafford, though, he's just a consistent defensive presence. He averages a lot of steals, a lot of blocks for his position. He's not a great rebounder, which I do think is maybe the problem with him. I still think he should start over Lively, though. I think he's a better player than Lively, and I think that he has more experience. He's actually played in the playoffs. So,
yeah, I'm happy we got Gafford. I don't know if I told you, I was like, man, it'd be cool if we got Daniel Gafford because of just the center-wise. And he's 25 years old. He's on a nice contract. And just it gives center depth now. I'm not opposed to Lively starting or Gafford starting, just because I like Lively, but I understand the differences. I think the goal is Gafford will be the backup center, but he's gonna do starts because Lively's injured, and Lively's been injured I want to say maybe 10 or 15 games this season.
I think Gafford's just the superior player. So I don't know why he wouldn't start. He's a much better, like Lively's a fine defender, sure. But Gafford has actually played in the playoffs, so he has experience in that realm. Gafford's a better defender. He averages 1.0 steals and 2.2 blocks. That's 3.2 stocks, which whenever I say stocks, I mean steals plus blocks.
Steals and blocks.
So he averages a lot of stocks, some of the most stocks in the league. And then he also averages 8 rebounds a game, almost 3 offensive rebounds per game. He's just, in my opinion, a superior player to Lively. I know you guys want to start Lively because of where he was taken, but he averages less points, less rebounds, less blocks, less steals, less everything. He's just, I think, a worse version of Gafford. Maybe in the future, Lively is the starter, but Gafford's still young. And I think come playoff time, Luke is going to want to play with a player who has more experience, who averages more of every stat, and is definitely a better defender at this point in his career.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure about Gafford. Because the thing with Lively, too, is when Luke is getting double teamed, Lively will come up to the free throw line. Luka will throw to him, and then Lively will quickly find someone else, and that stops the double teams from happening. And we'll just have to see with Gafford.
Well, Gafford averages more assists than Lively.
Okay.
Lively only averages 1.3 assists. I don't think Lively is all that spectacular of a passer, and you could teach Gafford to do that stuff. I think Gafford's just easily the better player. It both can shoot free throws, which I do think is a plus for both. Like a lot of Lively was supposed to be able to shoot free throws, but Lively this year only shoots 54%.
Yeah, he's
but in his college career he shot well, but Gafford shoots 71% from the free throw line. If you put Gafford on the court, you don't really have let's foul the center at the end of the game so he doesn't make free throws. I've watched Gafford hit clutch free throws. He's a great free throw shooter for centers because centers aren't usually the best free throw shooters. For centers, Gafford is a great free throw shooter. So I think, especially to end the game off, maybe he doesn't start, but last 5 minutes should be Gafford's minutes. I think he earned that with the Wizards. He played amazing for us, even in that small playoff run that we had against Embiid. He was still averaging a steal per game, 2 blocks per game, 12 points while shooting extremely efficiently. And like I said, he could hit free throws, which I don't think any other center on the Mavs has been proven to do yet.
Yeah, and you do. To your point, I think the last time a rookie center was having considerable minutes for a playoff team was Yao Ming. And people will talk about Walker Kessler. Jazz weren't a playoff team. So to your point, Gafford will most likely be starting in the playoffs. But the greater point for positive for Mavs fans and just people watching the Mavs is we're splitting hairs over 2 really good defensive centers. The Mavs haven't had a great defensive center since Tyson Chandler. Or would you say DeAndre Jordan?
Yeah, I was thinking Jordan.
Okay.
If you're talking about just defensively speaking, DeAndre Jordan, while he's not Tyson Chandler, he still made multiple all-defensive teams in his career. And by the time he was on the Mavs, he was not bad. He was still averaging 0.7 steals and 1.1 blocks, which maybe isn't like his peak, but is definitely not bad. So I do think that he was probably your last good defensive center. I don't think you guys have had a good defensive center since him.
Yeah. And he was only on the team for 6 months because that's when they sent him in the KP trade.
Yeah.
So just to the point, this is huge for the Mavs and the defensive center. And for what I've been hearing, that will help PJ Washington because he's done well he plays better defensively when he has a defensive center. And this year, that's why his numbers were bad because Mark Williams was out.
I think that's a little bit of hopeful Mavs fans, a little bit. I don't think PJ Washington's all that special of a defender. If you need a good center to be a good defender at the 4, I don't necessarily think you're all that great because the 4 isn't normally a position nowadays. It's just driving. They're also shooting threes and playing around. PJ Washington isn't the greatest defender. You guys aren't trading for him for defense.
Okay. Well, or I think they are doing defensively, and they're trying to upgrade from Grant Williams, which if from the Hornets side, I like what they got for PJ Washington. They got a first round pick. They also got Grant Williams, who I was high on him when they got him. A lot of I don't know if you've seen the Twitter. A lot of fans for the Mavs just hated Grant Williams. I'm like, he's in a bad stretch. For Charlotte, they can reclaim some value from him. I think he's going to break out of it. I think he's in a slump. I could be totally wrong. And I just don't think I think the Mavs don't have the time or didn't want to have the time to mess with Grant and give him time. So that's why they're like, okay, we're going to go get PJ Washington.
Yeah, I get that, but PJ was only really effective on the Hornets when LaMelo Ball was also out, so he was really their primary scorer along with Miles Bridges. Look, I'm a little bit biased in the sense that I only really see Wizards Twitter and Mavs Twitter. And Mavs Twitter, whenever they get a player, they're so excited, like this player is going to be great, and then they turn on him so quickly. I feel like you guys are so much of a fan of PJ Washington now, just like you were Grant Williams. And I don't think the upgrade is all as much as you guys think. PJ Washington has struggled shooting the ball this year, and you're going to need floor spacing to beat teams in the playoffs. He's only shooting 32%. I'm sure he'll go up with Luka, but it just seems like whenever they make additions, they're extremely happy about it, no matter what. And trading a player away just seems like they lose what they said. This player was supposed to be so good, and then when they won it, everyone's shocked. Well, no, it's not. I don't think PJ Washington is like this outstanding player. I do think that he can be better than Grant Williams given the right circumstances. I think that he has he needs some new scenery, so that's good. But I don't think you guys are getting necessarily like a crazy upgrade.
Yeah, no, and you do bring up a good point because I remember people when I was excited too about Christian Wood, and that did not turn out well.
I didn't think he was going to work because I didn't think he was good enough defensively when you guys need a defense. And Christian Wood's a great offensive player, but he was never a stellar defensive player. So
yeah, and then Rashawn Holmes, but I was more excited just because of they got Omax in that deal, and I thought when I compared Omax and Lively, I thought Omax was going to be the quicker contributor off the bench, but now it's actually been Lively. I think because Lively's played well, but also Omax just needs more time. So I think those are some of the deals, and I do think the Mavs were two of the bigger moves this year. It wasn't a major deadline move, but I like they're trying to upgrade, and I think probably with Gafford, now they're a better team because they didn't have anyone outside of Lively. Because the other center was Dwight Powell or Maxi Kleber, but now you actually have a legit center that can compete for the starting job. Yeah. What are we gonna add?
I think he's better and he has more experience. I don't know why you guys wouldn't start him come playoff time because he's played in the playoffs before. And starting a rookie center who's 19 versus Gafford, who I think is better across the board, even if it is just slightly, you would want to start the better player who has experience, I would assume. I mean, I could be wrong.
I think Kid's probably going to go Gafford just because I don't think he likes playing rookies too. So we'll have to see.
Well, I wouldn't even think this would be a rookie decision. Like I said, I think Gafford's better, even if it is just slightly across the board. I think he's a much better defender at this point in his career. But if you're going rebounds just slightly, scoring just slightly, he's much more efficient at the free throw line, which I do think matters come last 5 minutes. But I like that trade for the Mavs. That's definitely my favorite of the two because I actually think that PJ Washington doesn't have experience in the playoffs, and you're going to want to have experience come playoff time. And getting a guy who's been there before, I do think, means something.
Yeah. So I think, I'm really happy about Gafford, and it's just the idea of PJ Washington. We'll have to see how it works of a big defensive wing because he does have a bigger wingspan of than Grant Williams. So they're trying to fix the issue they were trying to fix in the summer when they traded Grant was just get a big, young defensive wing. PJ Washington and Grant Williams are the same age, both play similar positions. Because they're looking for that fourth starter, or the fourth starter, because they have a good defensive center, Gafford or Lively. Then the three they're still figuring out, but then you have the 1 and 2 in Luka and Kyrie. And They just need more defensive help, which is why I think PJ Washington's starting to help. But I think they got better in this than what they were, and that's probably that's because of Gafford and just the increase in the center room and the possibilities of that. So I think now they can be a playoff team. I remember I was hopeful in the offseason that they would be a playoff team. They were struggling, and I think they can be I feel better that they can be a playoff team. How do you feel about their playoff chances?
I don't think they're too much improved. I do think they will be, but the West is so good. I don't think they're going to be a top 6 team. Like if they make it, they're going to have to go through the play-in,
and that's going to be tough. But so they were the team that did a flurry of moves. Then I think the team that made the most moves or I feel better about is the New York Knicks.
I agree. Getting Bojan Bogdanovic is huge. I think that's the biggest move, and I think that is massive. We will be doing a video shortly regarding the Knicks. They have had a lot of injuries. OG Anunoby is out for another 3 weeks for a loose body in his elbow he had to get surgery on. But the Knicks look dangerous fully healthy, and I think with Brunson, with Randall, with Dante DiVincenzo playing as he has, Josh Hart had a triple-double last night. Hartenstein got hurt in that game as well. They're just not a healthy team, but fully healthy, I do think they are legit. But this move bolsters their scoring while they already have good defense.
Yes, and the thing is, the Mavs currently, for the differences, the Mavs are at the 8 seed right now. The Knicks are currently at the 4 seed, and they made moves just to fill. I think you and I are both a fan of just well-rounded teams, deep teams. And you mentioned Bojan. I think that accomplishes that trade. Those trades accomplish a deep team for the Knicks.
Yeah, and they're really they're tied for third, so they're technically fourth, but them and the Bucks are both 33 and 19. But I also want to point this out right now because we mentioned our 5 players that need to be traded each. Bojan Bogdanovic was on mine. Killian Hayes, who got cut, was on mine. So I guess we could say need to be moved. And then also Royce O'Neal was on mine. And then for you, Royce O'Neal, Evan Fournier was a part of this trade.
Yes.
And then
Beverly got traded.
Beverly. So we each had 3, right?
Yeah.
Your other 2 was DeMar and Caruso, and DeMar and Caruso didn't get traded.
Yeah, I also had Royce O'Neal.
Yeah. I said that. So that's 3.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then my 3 were Royce O'Neal, Killian Hayes, and Bojan, because I guess you could call released moved. He needed to leave, however way possible.
I'm shocked they released him.
Him being such a high pick and releasing him is definitely a questionable decision. We'll see if anyone decides to pick him up to give him a last chance. But
and you talked about Knicks injuries. I believe they have 3 spots on the buyout market. Correct?
I think so.
So I think, do we see a team that's rebuilding sign Killian Hayes, or do we see a team trying to compete in the playoffs sign Killian Hayes?
That's a good question. It's going to depend on what Killian Hayes is willing to do. I think it'll probably be a rebuilding team, but I could see it being a Knicks type team.
But yeah, now you mentioned, or we'll talk about this in the Knicks video, but to me, the Knicks stood out because they're already a good team compared to the Mavericks. It's more about potential with the Mavericks. The proof is in the pudding for the Knicks, and they just added onto that, getting Bojan. That's huge. They also got Alec Burks, which could help with the loss with Emmanuel Quickley, which they used to get OG Anunoby.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. I think another big move is the Royce O'Neal trade. I think that's a great trade for the Suns. Royce O'Neal has playoff experience. He's a great player. I think them being able to add him to a team that doesn't really have that much depth is huge. I could see him starting by the time they make the playoffs because I think that they could go small, and they're only going to have. Who is that 4 starter? It's Beal, Booker, KD. Right now, who is that 4?
Oh man, that's a good question. I want to say, was it
Because I've seen them start Eric Gordon at times or Grayson Allen at times, but do they have that set in stone? Because I could really see KD playing the 4 and then Royce O'Neal playing the 3, or Royce O'Neal playing the 4, and then they
Yeah,
just have their center be Yusuf Nurkic.
I don't think there was a consistent choice. I think it was an alternating thing. Yeah, I was surprised they actually pulled that off because Royce O'Neal, I think, is a great wing defender. And it's someone a team like the Suns need. Just that role player that's just so good.
Yeah, and he can do so much. I definitely think he could be in a big minute guy come playoff time. And he's going to need to be if the trade's going to work out because the Suns, again, are not a deep team. Their guy that started the most, it would be Grayson Allen. But I think you could play KD at the 4, and I think that Royce O'Neal is better than Grayson Allen. Even though Grayson Allen, I'm looking at his splits, and maybe not, because he is shooting 52% from the field, 49% from 3, and 88% from the free throw line, which is crazy. But if you're talking about rebounding, defense, and a lot of other stuff, Royce O'Neal is definitely a better player. So I definitely think he could start at the 3 if they wanted to do something different. But I do think this is a great trade for the Suns.
Yeah, me too. That was another trade. I was like, man, they got good. Just because, like, we talk about them being a deep team, this is what you're missing when you shoot for that third superstar. And another thing, I want to talk about Buddy Hield. This is confusing. What is the idea for the Pacers with trading away Buddy Hield? Because to me, that shows, we're not going to put our foot to the gas. While the Siakam trade was, our foot is down to the floor. What are your thoughts on Buddy Hield being traded?
I don't know. It always seems like I'm ready for Buddy to break out as a scorer, and he never does. I do think this moment for the Sixers where they are struggling so much because of Embiid's injury, he could play more, but I don't even know if he necessarily would start. I don't really know how that really works out because they're starting Maxey, Tobias Harris. They're starting Melton a lot when he's healthy, and they're starting Oubre. I guess they would start him over Melton, but Melton is their kind of defensive guy, so I don't really know. He could also start over Batum, I guess, which probably would be what he does, even though Batum is shooting extremely efficiently. But I don't know. Ever since I watched Buddy play in college, I've expected him to become a player that he just hasn't become, and I don't know if the Sixers is a spot for him.
Yeah, and another thing from the Sixers in the video where we talked about Patrick Beverley getting traded, you're like, they need to get a center. Well, they traded Patrick Beverley and they got Cam Payne back. So another guard into the mix. Doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you think that this makes the Sixers a lot better?
I'm not sure. I like them getting more guards, and maybe they're going to go to the buyout market for maybe a backup center that can fill in. I like them getting Buddy Hield because of a shooter, because of the three-point shot. And now if Embiid gets back, that's good for them. Because to me, he's a win-now player. And it just didn't make sense to me that the Pacers got rid of a win-now player because you gave up so much for Siakam. You got to try to compete.
Yeah. I agree. So we'll see if this works out.
Yeah, it was an active deadline. It wasn't something noteworthy, but I do feel like teams got better.
Yes, and I definitely think that we'll have to see how this works. I don't think that now we could make a distinction on a lot of these, whether they were good or not.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Hopeful. That's a good point. And we'll just have to see. But yeah, I think the teams that sold, or when I think of the Wizards, they got a first round pick for Gafford, which is good. Same thing with the Hornets. Even though they're so bad, they got an asset or something that could turn into an asset with Grant Williams because I think he breaks out of it. It could be wrong, but they also get a first round pick. And then, oh yeah, OKC with Gordon Hayward. I was a little shocked. I was like, that's an intriguing.
I like that. I
Okay.
almost had Gordon Hayward on my need to be traded, but I thought he was injured. But I think he's not injured. I just think now I think he's just not playing because he didn't want to play for the Hornets. So I definitely could see him making an impact. He's another player that has playoff experience, been there, done that. And on a team that is so young, you do need that veteran presence.
It's a nice swing from the Thunder, and they're really not going to lose a lot just because of their assets that they have and what they gave up. And so I see the value there, but I was like, I was not expecting Gordon Hayward to be traded.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily expect it because I thought he was injured, but I guess he's not, and he's just ready to play now.
Yeah, so that's all we got. I'll toss this over to you to close it out.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening, and please let us know how you feel about these trades in the comments.